Smutty romance is so popular right now. Every time I go to Barnes and Nobles and I go to the romance section, I always feel like I have such a hard time finding books that don't have explicit scenes. And it makes me really sad as a Christian girl who doesn't want to be reading all of those scenes. And I think that we are actually starting to see how it is affecting many women. Smutty romance isn't a small niche anymore. It's a cultural force. Romance is a top-selling genre in the United States, bringing over $1 billion every single year. Isn't that crazy? That blows my mind. A significant portion of modern bestseller now include explicit sexual scenes. With apps, with Kindle Unlimited, with Book Talk, it is now so easy for people to consume smutty scenes. I have come across book talkers who put a screenshot of the page of the smutty scenes, and to me that is wild because I think that there are so many of us who are not trying to consume that kind of content, and it is just mind-blowing to just come across it when you are just swiping looking for new books to read. And I am a firm believer that people can read and post whatever it is that they want to. But when do we as Christians draw the line? That being said, I feel like explicit content is being pushed more and more, and now even going into young adult books. But I know you're going to tell me, Rosie, that is just entertainment. But this isn't just about entertainment. Research on sexualized media consumption shows that repeated exposure to explicit content can reshape expectations about relationships, increase focus on physical gratification, and lower long-term relationship satisfaction. Psychologists also have noticed that sexual content activates the reward system in your brain, which helps explain why so many people find it very difficult to quit reading those scenes or those books. Now let's jump into talking about why I stopped reading and consuming books that contain any kind of spice, and my thoughts on whether I think Christian women should consume spicy books, and what to do in order to stop reading those spicy books if that's something that you want to do. If you are new here, I am Rosie from Reading Rosie, and I am here to bring you all of the books without any explicit scenes, because I believe that if any book is causing any kind of lust, that we need to put it away and not pick it up anymore. Just like throw it out. Some of the books that I share are closed door. That means they close the door before you see anything explicit. No spice. That means that there is no spice or explicit scenes in the book. I also share clean books, which means that there is no spice, there is no language, there is nothing super gory or anything triggering in the story. And I also share Christian fiction. I didn't grow up as a reader. I started reading a few years ago, and when I started reading, I was very happy. I read this one book that made me fall in love with reading, and then of course, I went to Google. I went to the internet to ask what other books I should read. When I found the very first spicy scene, I literally was so confused. I was like, what is this? Because I was not expecting that at all. I was just expecting like a little Hallmark movie with PG-13 content and nothing else. Well, I was wrong. I continued reading my very first year to first year and a half, reading books that were very popular. I was reading a lot of the popular books, okay? And I was just skipping over the spicy pages and the spicy chapters. And I was so thankful when I found out that there were actual content creators out there that were sharing where to skip on the spicy parts, and that's what I was doing. But as I started reading my Bible, I started to feel more and more convicted about the type of content that I was actually reading. Again, I was skipping, but I just felt like I shouldn't be reading that, especially if the couple isn't married, and they were more like lust driven rather than love driven, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I started reading my Bible more, and I started to read more about Jesus, and then I started to really feel very, very convicted. My platform started to grow on Instagram, and I started to see people actually start to read the books that I was recommending, and a lot of these people were teenagers. And one day, as I was seeing the teenagers were taking my recommendations, I felt very convicted because I remember that verse that says not to be a stumbling block, and I really, really felt like I could have been a stumbling block for so many teenagers that were seeing the books on my shelves, that were saying, hey, Rosie, I'm going to read that book with you. And I just did not feel good about that. Let me look up the Bible verse so that I can tell you what it says exactly. Here are some of the verses that were coming to mind when I was seeing people picking up the books that I was reading. Even though I knew I was skipping the smutty scenes, I did not know if I was encouraging them to pick those books up and maybe even become addicted to those spicy books. In 1 Corinthians 8:9 says, be careful, however, that the exercise of your rights does not become a stumbling block to the weak. Oh my gosh. The main one though was Matthew 18:6. Jesus warns that causing one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble brings severe consequences. Now, let me tell you something. Even though I was skipping all of these spicy scenes, I did not feel good knowing that I was recommending those books to other people, because I was saying, oh my gosh, this book was amazing. I loved it so much. I highly recommend it. I think you should read it. And here are the spicy chapters to skip. And I was giving that and I was like feeling completely fine. But one day this Bible verse just came and like smacked me on the face. And I was like, you know what? You know what? I don't think I should be doing this. As a Christian woman, I am representing Christ, and I don't want to be bringing these books to these teens, maybe even causing them to get addicted to these spicy scenes and spicy books. So then I knew something had to change. And one day I was scrolling through my Libby and I found a book that was a Christian romance, and I borrowed it without a clue that it was Christian romance. And I read it and I fell in love with it. And I started looking on my Instagram to see if anyone had reviewed the book. And that is how I found the closed door side of Bookstagram. Oh my gosh, welcome, because all the fun is on this side. After finding the closed door side of Bookstagram, I stayed there. I started sharing books that don't glorify sexual sin, and it has been the best choice that I have ever made. But wait, because it actually took me a little second for me to actually like dig into my heart and say, yeah, this is an issue and I need to just really get rid of those spicy books and read closed door books. Here are some of the Bible verses that helped me get from reading books that had spicy content to reading books that don't have any spicy content. Let's start with Matthew 5:28. But I tell you that if anyone looks at a woman lustfully, has already committed adultery with her in his heart. That taught me that lust doesn't start as an action. It starts in the heart, with the eyes, and with what you consume. And if I was sharing these books with other people, if they were consuming these stories, it may start to cause some lust in their hearts. And remember, sin doesn't start in actions. It starts in what we entertain. 1 Thessalonians 4:3-5 says, for this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you abstain from sexual immorality, not in the passions of lust like the Gentiles who do not know God. Purity is not optional. It is God's will for us. And this one is one that I absolutely love. In Job 31:1 says, I made a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully at a young woman. And you can say I made a covenant with my eyes too, that I would not consume anything that was spicy, that would create lust to be planted in my heart. And you have to remember that boundaries are so biblical. It is very important for us as Christian women to set those boundaries in our lives, because if we don't, girl, we're going to do all kinds of crazy things. And maybe those things are not only going to harm us, but are going to also harm others. 2 Timothy 2:22, flee youthful passions and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace. Girl, it is telling us to flee, not to like buy it and put it on our bookshelves. And last but not least, Romans 12:2. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I realized that the more that I read all of these books that contained the spicy scenes, again, I was skipping, but it was making it seem like it was okay for people to just kind of like sleep around with one another and not to make promises before they slept around with one another. And it just made it seem like that was so normal. And the more that we normalize that, the worse that our culture is going to get, because normalizing is kind of like accepting it. And that is not us renewing our minds with God's word. And we are called to renew our minds and not to live according to the world. Okay, I have one more Bible verse. Galatians 5:16. It says, walk by the Spirit and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. Starving the flesh is very important. Once I got that conviction about reading books that contain spicy scenes, I got rid of them. And I starved that desire to pick up the popular books, and now I don't feel the desire anymore. I have found so many amazing books. I'm going to leave them a link below so that you guys can find them. I have close to 400 books in there that you guys can find right now, and they don't have any kind of explicit scenes, and I am happy to bring that to you. I know that it can be very hard to find amazing books that are closed door with no spice, but I am happy to bring those to you. Why do I think Christian women shouldn't read spicy books? The main reason is that we are called to be different from the world, and if the world is celebrating explicit content, then we should not be. Ask yourself, why? Why do they celebrate this content? Most of the time when they are sleeping with each other in these books, they are not married. Number one, that's not good. Number two, it focuses so much more in the body and in the lust rather than in the love, rather than in patience, rather than in waiting, rather than in God's timing. And I don't like that at all. I want a male main character and a female main character that yearn for each other, but that are patient enough to wait until they get married. Another reason why I think Christian women should not be reading spicy books is because I feel like many of us like to read the books and then we recommend them. We may actually be causing them to start some type of addiction when it comes to spicy books. I never want to be leading anyone astray. I never want to be pushing anyone farther away from Jesus. And I know that I can't control that, but in a way I can with the fruits that I show in my life and with what I recommend people to do and read. And I don't know about you, but for me and my Bookstagram, I have a lot of teens and a lot of women, and I don't know in what area of their walk they are in, but I never want to tempt them to read a book that they are not ready to read, or for them to read something that is going to awaken desires that are not supposed to be awakened yet. But I'm going to give you the last reason as to why I think Christian women should not read spicy books is that we are called to flee temptation, not to linger, not to flirt with it, but to flee. The Bible never says read a spicy book and see if you're strong enough to skip it, or see if you're strong enough to not have any kind of feelings towards the spicy content. The Bible never says to test your strength to see how strong you are. No, the Bible says to flee. And I know that many people start just because they're curious, but many times curiosity can lead to temptation. And together with that, I'm going to say that we are called to renew our minds, and the brain adapts to what we expose it to repeatedly. And if you're at a point in your life where spicy content feels normal, that is conditioning. Like you have conditioned yourself to feel like that is normal. I'm going to give you 3 things that you can do so that you can start finding closed door reads today. That way you don't feel tempted to go back to the spicy books. Number 1, get on the right side of Bookstagram. Go to the closed door, no spice Christian side of Bookstagram. I promise you, you are not going to regret it. Over there, you're going to find so many amazing Bookstagrammers that are ready to give you books that don't have any kind of spice. And not all the books are Christian. They are actually super cute. And we have all the genres. We have fantasy, romantasy, dark romance. We have mafia romance. We have sweet romance, hockey romance. We have cowboy romance. We have all these things that you can enjoy, sci-fi, and all these books don't have spicy scenes. So I would say follow Bookstagrammers that are Christian. I'm going to pop a few on the screen here so that you guys can find them. And of course, you can follow me at Reading Rosie, and all I share is no spice books. Number 2, I'm going to leave you a full list of over 350 books in the links below so that you can find it and that you can start reading books that don't have any kind of spice as soon as right now. Number 3, get rid of all of the books that you own that have spicy content. And if you feel like you are tempted to go and buy books that contain any kind of spice, I would say always kind of make yourself buy a book that doesn't have spice and get excited about that book instead of going and giving in to the spicy content. Try not to feel like you're missing out. I know that in the beginning it does feel like that, I'm going to be honest. And even to this day, I still have a few authors that I wish I could read. I don't have any regrets after picking to listen to my convictions, to listen to what the Lord tells me to do. I think that fleeing and getting rid of explicit scenes in the books that I read is so much better than consuming books that are maybe going to tempt me in the future, maybe going to tempt others. And I just don't like having that in my mind and that stress of not knowing if one day I'm going to accidentally read something and be stuck in spicy content, if I'm accidentally going to cause someone else to start reading those spicy books. And just having that peace of mind has been a game changer for me. So to end this video, no, I don't think that Christian women should read spicy books. I think that we are not called to flirt with explicit content. I believe that we are called to flee sexual immorality, and I do think that reading spicy books is a form of engaging with sexual immorality because you're reading about other people. I know they don't exist, I know that, but we are so good with our minds that we can create people in our minds with very real feelings, and we are meant to connect with these characters. That's how the authors meant it to be. That is my belief. That is my view. It is okay if you disagree. So that is the number one reason why I think women should not read spicy scenes. And number two, I think it's just not healthy for us, the way that we are represented, the way that we are just like so easily given to spicy content, or the way that it is made to seem like it is okay to sleep around with multiple people, that it is okay to sleep around before marriage. I just don't like that. I don't like that it's so normalized. Let me know some of the reasons why you think Christian women shouldn't be reading spicy content. And maybe next time I'll talk a little bit about how angry I get about spicy content in young adults, because what is this? Like, what, seriously, who is allowing these people to write explicit content for 13-year-olds? It blows my mind. I hope that you found this helpful. If you did, make sure to leave me a comment below. Let me know. Make sure to follow, and I will be here next time. Let me know which one of the Bible verses inspire you the most. And if you are a Christian woman and you're going to continue reading spicy books, let me know. Again, I feel like we're all free to do whatever it is that we want to do. I cannot force you to listen to me, not force you to give up spicy books. I cannot force you to do anything. And I do believe that we have been given the freedom to choose what we want to do. Make sure to follow me and to stay a while. I share all no spice books, and I cannot wait to see you next time. Love you. Bye.